Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Liang Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. Dozens of protesters joined a man who is on a hunger strike outside of Apple's headquarters. He is protesting how the airdrop service was changed, first in China. The Twitter files are moving along with their sequential release. Part 5 is out now, about how former President Donald Trump was banned from Twitter. And the governor is taking strong action against oil companies, who he says are price gouging. But industry experts say his methods would just make consumers pay more. Here's a follow-up on the Apple hunger striker that we spoke to last week. Over the weekend on Human Rights Day, he was not alone. Dozens of supporters joined him in protesting the tech company's airdrop restrictions in China. NTD's David Lam reports.
Although it rained hard, dozens of supporters rallied outside of Apple's headquarters on International Human Rights Day in Cupertino, California, standing with the hunger striker.
But Apple, which is kind of a social responsible company in a lot of the people's eyes, is colluding with the Chinese Communist Party, with the Chinese government, to suppress our own human rights.
Graduate student Han Wang started a 7-day hunger strike at Apple headquarters on December 5th. He told NTD he's only sleeping underneath this banner. The tent is for storage. They are urging the tech giant to revoke its airdrop restrictions in mainland China, where A4 protesters are counting on the Bluetooth-based tool to evade the communist regime's censorship.
It is very difficult to stage any protest, and these who are brave enough to stand up, they are facing severe persecutions now. We don't know how many people have been arrested.
One of the activists is also a survivor of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre in China.
In a way, this is a continuation of what we started 33 years ago on Tiananmen Square when we were protesting. But I'm really excited that young people like him are picking up the torch. So we see great hope for a free China.
For Apple devices, users can set their airdrop retrieval setting to one of 3 options: receiving off, contacts only, or everyone. With the new changes, those who want to receive files from everyone will have a 10-minute limit, where the phone then reverts back to contacts only.
Apple do this and nobody stopped him, or we didn't come, and every technology was saying, big tech company was saying, oh, that's fine, because we can have double standard in China and in US. We can claim we are a good company, we are a very good company in the US, but we can do some evil things and nobody really cares.
Just after the hunger strike began, tech websites Mac Rumors, TechCrunch, and 9to5Mac reported on November 7th that Apple is expanding the 10-minute airdrop limit to all users with iOS 16.2. Apple stated it's an effort to cut down on spam sent in crowded areas, and say they originally planned to roll out the feature globally starting in 2023. But Apple has not provided an answer as to why it chose mainland China to be the first country with airdrop restrictions. NTD reached out to Apple for comment. David Lam, NTD News, California.
The latest installment of the so-called Twitter files came out Monday morning. It shows how former President Trump was banned from the platform.
Journalist Barry Weiss released the Twitter files Part 5 on Monday afternoon. It includes images of conversations between Twitter employees before then-President Trump was banned from the platform. They discussed tweets Trump made after January 6th. Weiss summarizes, the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. But internal and external pressure to ban Trump mounted. One head employee asked if there was a way to interpret the tweets as an incitement to violence, asking for any context or insight we should consider. Later that day, Trump was banned due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Weiss points out how other heads of state did in fact incite violence without getting banned, like the former Malaysian prime minister, who tweeted that Muslims have a right to be angry and to kill millions of French people for the massacres of the past, or Iran's Ayatollah, who said that Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. Mark Meckler was the interim CEO of social media company Parler and the president of Convention of States Action. He tells NTD Twitter shows a double standard.
These are obvious, direct, intentional incitements to violence. And what you see in Barry Weiss's thread is that even the executives of Twitter were saying they couldn't actually find any incitement and violence to Trump's tweets. And so they knew that they were doing something that was not consistent with their standards.
Not all Twitter employees agreed with banning Trump. One message reads, "Maybe because I am from China, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation." Meckler says the U.S. is in fact becoming like China.
And I think it's really dangerous. I think we're sliding towards totalitarianism at a rapid rate.
The files show that a day after Trump was banned, employees expressed eagerness to tackle medical misinformation as soon as possible. Over the weekend, a Twitter user asked Musk whether the Twitter files about the censorship of COVID-19 and vaccine information will be released. Musk replied saying, "Oh, it is coming big time." White House COVID-19 advisor Anthony Fauci recently testified as part of a lawsuit investigating collusion between the government and big tech to censor people. At the deposition, Fauci said that he never called for censorship. Meckler says even if Fauci did ask for censorship, it might be hard to find proof.
A lot of times guys at a high level like him like to have plausible deniability, so they're not directly involved. It'll be interesting if we can find a direct track with Fauci's involvement.
It is not clear yet when the next batch of the Twitter files will be released. Reporting by Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Twitter is planning to auction off its corporate office items online. They range from office supplies to kitchen appliances. The social media company is auctioning off hundreds of items from its corporate office in San Francisco. The items listed on Heritage Global Partners include office chairs, TVs, kitchen appliances, a Twitter bird statue, a giant 6-foot-tall ad sculpture planter, and more. The bidding process will be held online starting January 17th at 7 a.m. and ends January 18th at 10 a.m. The governor is considering placing a limit on oil refinery profits in the state, but experts say the regulation would just result in higher gas prices for consumers.
Earlier this month, Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled his consideration of a plan that would place mandatory profit limits on California oil refineries. It would also add industry regulations and oversight as a way to stop high gas prices. If the limits are violated, the state's Energy Commission could impose penalties on oil refineries. Last month, following a state hearing and investigation into record high gas prices, Newsom accused Big Oil of, quote, ripping Californians off. According to his press release, he says Big Oil has been lying and gouging Californians to line their own pockets long enough. I look forward to the work ahead with our partners in the legislature to get this done. Newsom's proposal claims the record gas prices this summer were due to, quote, opportunistic price gouging by oil companies. But industry experts disagree and say higher gas prices would follow. That's according to David Hackett, a fuels industry expert with Stillwater Associates in Irvine and member of the California Energy Commission's Petroleum Market Advisory Committee. He told the Epoch Times that in the past, government control of refineries have resulted in higher gas prices for consumers. Hackett says the governor wants to punish the oil companies. That seems to be the objective. But I can't see how this is going to help gasoline customers because it won't create any more supply in gasoline. Valero Energy Corporation also responded to the criticism this past October. They said, quote, market drivers of supply and demand together with government-imposed costs and specifications determine market price. The company also claimed California is the most expensive state to operate in and has a hostile regulatory environment meant to eliminate the refinery sector. The Assembly and Senate adjourned without discussing the legislation but may take it up in January next year.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we got for you when we come back. One of the largest academic labor strikes in the country's history may be moving towards resolution. That's as both the UC system and the strikers have agreed to mediation. Speaking of the UCs, a coach at one of the Southern California universities is facing a lawsuit. Parents of a boy who committed suicide are saying the coach drove him to his death. And a little girl got herself a peculiar pet ownership license. She is now authorized to legally own a unicorn. That is, if she can find one. That and more on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, Liang Zhang. Across the state, California saw a stormy weekend of wind, rain, and snow. Travelers are still reminded to drive slowly and use snow chains when required.
Cars on Interstate 80 in the Sierra are moving slower than usual. Authorities have put up a snow chain requirement in place for vehicles traveling over the summit. There is a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit for cars only. Trucks are being turned around at Colfax and State Line. Interstate 50 has reopened for traffic, but chains are still required. The UC Berkeley Central Sierra Snow Lab recorded a total of 59 inches of snow between the two recent storms. Southern California also saw some precipitation. In Orange County, authorities responded to a call for a water rescue on Sunday morning in the area of the Santa Ana riverbed at Orangewood. They dispatched 2 water rescue teams and a helicopter. They found an adult male in the riverbed. Paramedics treated him on scene and transported him to the hospital. Due to the recent storms, water flows faster. Authorities remind the public to steer clear of the rushing water.
Striking UC workers and the university agreed to mediation in hopes of resolving strike.
Last Friday, the University of California and the union representing striking graduate students agreed that they would enter a mediation process after failing to reach an agreement. From mid-November, about 48,000 workers, including 17,000 student researchers, went on strike at 10 University of California campuses. They seek higher salaries and greater annual raises, free public transit passes, improved child care benefits, and greater job security. Both the university system and the union look forward to working with a professional mediator to resolve the issues still on the table and reach a labor contract. Tarini Hardikar, a member of the United Auto Workers bargaining team from UC Berkeley, said, quote, "Until then, we remain on strike." According to the union, the strike is the nation's largest since 2019. It is also the first by postdoctoral scholars and academic researchers. In late November, the postdoctoral scholars and academic researchers reached a tentative labor deal with the university, but they have continued striking in solidarity with other workers. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
A married couple is speaking up about their son's death. They said that he had athletic aspirations but was pushed to end his life from being overwhelmed by a coach at a Southern California university. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the coach and the school, alleging mistreatment.
He looks like
A husband and wife said that a verbally abusive Southern California coach led to their 19-year-old son taking his own life.
You know, it was the darkest day of my life and of Brian's life, and we just couldn't believe it.
Brian Lilly Jr.'s story was one of triumph. Overcoming childhood arthritis, he ran the New York Marathon, completed an Ironman race, and became a Division I college athlete.
He was a powerhouse. He looks like Superman here with his Ironman medal.
Yeah.
In 2019, everything seemed to be going right for him as he started his freshman year at University of California, San Diego on the rowing team.
Here's Brian.
Parents Brenda Lilly and Brian Lilly Sr. said everything changed when their son challenged the then rowing coach Jeff Bond for allowing another athlete to stay on the team despite sexual harassment allegations. The family claims the coach retaliated with verbal abuse and demoted the son.
So this guy basically squashed Brian's self-esteem. He's threatened to push Brian off the team. And I don't need to have a sports psychologist in here to tell me how damaging that was.
The defense team for Bond, who coached at UC San Diego until last January, has filed a motion to dismiss the case. They said Bond hadn't seen Lilly Jr. for 9 months prior to his death, and that the coach reached out during the pandemic lockdown to see if Lilly would return to UCSD. According to the Associated Press, several of Bond's former collegiate rowers support the coach. One student from 2002 to 2003 said he absolutely loved his style of coaching and feel it is a great fit for young college kids. Lilly's family attorney said the son remained involved with the rowing program remotely via regular video calls. Brian Lilly Sr. recalled how his son pushed himself hard during a workout session in 2020 that he vomited multiple times, and that Bond referred to throwing up as being a response of sissies. Some rowers at UC San Diego have shared similar experiences, describing a culture in which Bond used crass and offensive language uttered in front of athletes.
And overwhelmed, and he probably felt defeated. Of course he felt defeated. This was his life dream.
The Lilly's case is one of a few high-profile cases at universities that are asking what is the line between hard coaching and abuse. The FCC has a national hotline with mental health professionals at 988 for those that may be facing a crisis. The Lillys say they are determined to save others from the kind of treatment they say their son endured.
The Los Angeles Department of Animal Care and Control has granted a special license to an imaginative California girl. The lucky girl received a license to own a unicorn in her backyard. That's on the condition that she can find one.
A young girl from Southern California named Madeline sent the Los Angeles Department of Animal Care a brief letter last month. She wrote, "Dear LA County, I would like your approval if I can have a unicorn in my backyard, if I can find one." Department of Animal Care and Control Director Marcia Moreda responded with a heart-shaped rose-colored metal tag inscribed with "Permanent Unicorn License" and a fuzzy unicorn doll. Moreda commended Madeline for her, quote, sense of responsible pet ownership, for seeking permission in advance for considering the requirements of providing a loving home to animals. The permit came with 5 conditions of unicorn ownership. These include providing the unicorn with ample sunlight, rainbows and moonbeams, polishing its horn monthly with a soft cloth, ensuring that sprinkles and glitter sprinkled on the creature be biodegradable and non-toxic, and feeding the unicorn watermelon once a week.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update on sports.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup. The Los Angeles Chargers remain in second place in the AFC West with a win over the Miami Dolphins. Quarterback Justin Herbert completed 39 of his 51 passing attempts for 367 yards and 1 touchdown. Running back Austin Eckler was LA's biggest weapon in the game, recording 45 rushing yards and a ground score to go along with 8 catches for 59 yards. Receiver Mike Williams also had a big game, turning his 6 catches into 116 yards. The Chargers defense did an excellent job against Miami's second-ranked passing attack, even while missing 2 defensive backs in star safety Derwin James and corner Bryce Callahan. LA was also without defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day. Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was held to just 10 completions on 28 attempts. His lack of production against the Chargers defense sunk the Dolphins as they lost their second straight game. The LA Chargers are now 7-6 and will host the Tennessee Titans next week. Chargers 23, Dolphins 17. 49ers backup quarterback Brock Purdy made his first career start Sunday against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, handling the pressure well and leading San Francisco to a win. Purdy threw for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns while rushing for another score for the Niners. Running back Christian McCaffrey led the skill position group with 119 rushing yards and 2 catches for 34 receiving yards. He also had a touchdown through the air and on the ground. San Francisco's defense came up big and helped Purdy into good field position for many of his drives. That included creating 3 turnovers in the form of 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. Tom Brady completed 34 of his 55 passing attempts for 253 yards and 1 touchdown. He was stifled by the 49ers defense again and again, preventing the Bucs from getting into the end zone except for once on a fluke play. Brock Purdy is now the only quarterback in NFL history to beat Tom Brady while making his first career start. It's unlikely that either quarterbacks Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance return this season given the severity of their injuries, but this game serves as a great first start for Purdy as the 49ers gear up for a run into the postseason. San Francisco improves to 9-4 and will go on the road to play the Seattle Seahawks this Thursday. 49ers 35, Buccaneers 7. Well-known U.S. soccer journalist Grant Wahl died suddenly on Friday after collapsing while covering a match at the World Cup in Qatar. U.S. Soccer said it was, quote, heartbroken to learn of Wahl's death. His wife responded to the U.S. Soccer statement on Twitter, saying she was, quote, in complete shock. Qatar's World Cup organizers, the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, paid tribute to Wahl's, quote, enormous love of football and offered condolences to his family, friends, and media colleagues. Wahl, a former Sports Illustrated sports writer who moved to Substack, had been tweeting about the Netherlands-Argentina match earlier on Friday. His agent Tim Scanlon told Reuters that Wahl had, quote, appeared to suffer from some kind of acute distress in the start of extra time at the quarterfinal match. Wahl also posted on his Substack that he believed he had bronchitis. Scanlon said attempts were made to revive Wahl in the press box before he was taken to a local hospital where he was then confirmed dead. Qatar's international media office did not immediately respond to requests to Reuters for comment.
And that's all for the sports.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with the friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.